Stefan, thank you very much for joining me today. I'm sure everybody is very interested in hearing your insights on the topics that we're discussing. Do you first of all want to introduce yourself to us?
Yeah, sure. Danny, thanks for having me. And yeah, my name is Stefan. I have a background in aerospace engineering, and I spent around 10 years in academia as a researcher for fighter jet engines. Later on, I joined the additive manufacturing industry and was a consultant. And I'm still in this industry, but in between, I took over the engineering department in a new space company as head of engineering. And yeah, this is pretty much the leadership role that we are talking about today, I guess, or where I gained a lot of my experiences throughout my entire career.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So, on that, then, the first question I have for you is why is it important that those taking their first roles in leadership see themselves as a junior in that first role?
I think it's like with anything that you start,
Important that those taking
you do, or you start martial arts, you're not usually a pro from day one on. So this applies also to new roles. And I witnessed that very often in my career that the typical career path for an engineer, and I'm talking about engineers in particular because I am an engineer, it was like you start as a junior engineer, become classic, a senior engineer, and then it's very often that these senior engineers become a team lead because you would like to develop them further. But what really qualifies a senior engineer as a team lead? And I think not too much because it's totally different jobs with very often different mindsets and skill sets that are needed. And I know at least a lot of engineers that are very introverted, not the guys really, um, let's say, be good for a team lead and dealing with others. So what we did in my last role was we developed a career path for different career tracks. And I have to say thank you to Yasmin because I had really great or outstanding support from HR to do that. And what we did is we had this specialist track as an engineer. So from junior to classic to senior, and then even further to principal engineer. But we also had, beside of that, the project path, which was a lead engineer, a technical project manager, and a senior project manager. So it's a different career track. It's more project focused. So leading other engineers in a project environment. And we also had the management track, which is team lead, director, head of, and so on, which is the disciplinary responsibility for people. And so if you be in one track, you can for sure change this track and change to another track. But what you have to realize is that you're starting something different. And each of these different job titles had a lot of skill set explanations and also skills and also some experience levels. And if you change, it was very clear from where to go and what you have to develop as a personal skill set. And so if you change the track, you start from scratch. You start as a junior. Maybe you have had some experience in previous roles or in previous jobs, then of course this is something that you can bring. But it was really like from a senior engineer to a junior team lead, and that was also appreciated by everyone. So they really understood what that means, that it's a different job, and it was okay for them.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. I think leadership. That first role in leadership, such a a funny dynamic, isn't it? Because you like you say, you're almost starting something new that you've got no experience in, and you've got to learn as you do. You've got to learn as you do the job. Whereas, the people in your team are going to see you as the one that they rely on and the experts. It's difficult to balance that, and I think I've spoken to a lot of leaders that don't cut themselves enough slack as they're in their first management role, and sometimes it can lead to being burnt out, or making the wrong decisions, because you're still learning yourself. And I think if you have that mindset where you're considering yourself as a junior leader, I think that will definitely help with approaching those mental challenges.
Absolutely correct. Yeah, and not everyone who wants to progress in his career track also wants to be a team manager in the end. So this brings a lot of other stuff with it. So I very often had people that they were absolutely unhappy as a team manager because they were so far away from the technical stuff then. So they wanted to get back, but still they wanted to have the salary for the progress in salary, and that's why we established this career track. It was quite common that a senior engineer or principal engineer earned more money than the team manager. Why not?
Yeah.
So it's different jobs.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, the important thing you mentioned as well is the fact that they could move between the different tracks, because I suppose, in the same breath, learning to become a team leader, you won't know until you try it, but you may realize further down the line that it's not for you. And, at least there's something else that you can do with that. You can move tracks, and yeah, it takes that pressure away from basically doing a job you don't want to do.
Right.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Thank you very much for that. So question 2 I've got for you then is, how do you ensure there is no disconnect between leaders and their workforce?
Yeah, I witnessed that as well. So very often it's like the management is sitting at the upper floors. I don't know why, because it's nothing special about it, but I recognize it very often. And some even call it these ivory tower managers. And if you do it like that, you definitely lose the connection to your people. And it's absolutely necessary as a leader to know what's going on in the company. And when you're sitting up there, you have no clue about the real world problems and also the processes that fail. And so you're establishing processes, but you don't see how they are lived in the company. You don't recognize where there are obstacles. So you can't really adjust your leadership. And I had this discussion also once with my boss. So who's your team? And for sure, I told him my team is sitting in the lower floors where the engineers sit. So I have to be there. I have to talk to them. I have to be present in the end, and that helped me a lot, honestly, because I was really getting to know everything that was going on. Also, the small problems, and I was able to establish a kind of a relationship, a very close relationship to the people, but still keeping it a professional relationship. And I saw it often as a good sign when people approached me with stuff that went wrong. So if they're really coming to your office and say, hey, look, we have this issue, or we messed up with this, how can we deal with this? And that means that they trust you and they don't fear the consequences of something like that. But it also gives you a good overview on what's going on. And you have to build this kind of relationship. And I think you can't if you have this disconnect in being at the upper floors and just being this kind of manager, not really close to your people.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful, because I think that ultimately, as the manager, at least in my experience anyway, that's the person that, when you've got no ideas left, you need to rely on them to help you get to the right answer. And I think if you're coming in as you say, from the ivory tower right at the very end when everything's gone wrong. It's a much harder job to overcome those obstacles as opposed to actually, as you say, being sat with the team, being much more involved. You'll hopefully see the signs earlier that something may happen, and then hopefully you'll be in a better place to rectify it with the team.
Yeah, and you're also closer to the project, so you know what's going on in the project, or what's the current issues in some of your sprints or whatever. So they respect you in another way because you can talk with them, you can talk their language, you know what's going on. It's not like just a look on the timetable or schedules, and you say, oh, you're late, or you have messed up, we don't be able to deliver on time. No, you know the reason why this happened, and you can really talk with them also technically if you have the background. That helped me at least a lot, being able to communicate about the technical issues as well. And I very often ask them just the questions. So I wanted to learn as well, and I asked them questions, and I have had a lot of experts in specific fields, and there's no better way to learn anyways. And as a leader, if you ask the questions, they sometimes, or the engineers really recognize what the issues are, because there's a dumb person asking silly questions, getting you in the right direction of the issue in the end.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much. Next question I have for you then is, what's the most valuable lesson that you've learned about leadership, and how has that then shaped your approach to leading others?
There's one fundamental thing that I have learned, and it is never lie to your employees and never try to hide things, because all these guys are really smart people because you hired them, and they will recognize immediately if you try to hide something or you just don't tell them the truth. And this also is a problem then for the trust that I mentioned earlier, that you need to establish to be respected and to have the people working for you, and not just working at the company and doing whatever they do just to spend time there. So really be open, talk to them about issues in the company, about what's going on. They will recognize anyways. And everyone is dealing with such kind of situation differently, but it's your job as a leader to know how you can motivate them anyway. So how you can motivate them under tough circumstances. And if someone leaves the company, then okay, that's might be the case. But this is a decision of everyone for her or his own, and you have to be open and give them the opportunity to decide on their own. That's at least what I learned.
Yeah, definitely. I think, as you say, I think having that respect for the team that you're working with, and allowing them to hear the truth, and like you say, helping them in dealing with that truth. I think, again, as you said before, it just makes you more on their level. It makes them think of you as part of their team. They will respect you as one of their own, I think, and that's really powerful when leading a team.
And talking about levels, I also learned always go to the shop floor, because they know everything. So if you want to know as a leader what's going on in your company, go to the shop floor. They know it, believe me.
Yeah, definitely. Brilliant. Okay, and the final question for you then today is, what makes the 3D printing industry a great one to work in?
Well, also the industry emerges currently to a more production technology industry. It's still something new and fascinating, I think, and there are a lot of companies that are currently implementing AM into their production, and it's getting more and more people, of course, in that industry, but there's still enough possibilities or opportunities for young people to grow with the technology and the specific departments in larger companies or in startup companies. We have seen that very often. And So still the spirit in this industry remained as it was in a during a time when I joined. So it's really a cool spirit and a cool culture, and I can definitely recommend a job in this industry. Yeah, it's for engineers, it's cool.
Yeah, brilliant. And I suppose, with it being at that sort of early phase still, anybody that's an engineer that's willing to innovate, or that has some new ideas that they'd like to try, I suppose it's probably a good time before it really cements its processes and what have you. Maybe it's a good time to come in and test that innovation out.
Yeah, there's still a lot of possibilities also in larger companies because they don't really know how to deal with additive manufacturing, and so you have a lot of freedom.
Amazing. Sounds fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Stefan. I really appreciate your time and your input on all of these topics today.
Thank you, Danny.